Dylan, I'm so happy to see you.
Finally! I grew up watching all of the Broadway.com vlogs, so I was like the Jackie Hoffman's biggest fan, and fan mail, got some fan mail. That's a deep cut for those at home.
It's a deep cut.
Or, you know, Side by Side with Susan Blackwell. Like those were like literally what shaped me as a child.
Yeah.
So to be here with you is just really special.
Tell me how and when you wound up sending money to Jackie Hoffman.
Oh my God. I was so addicted, like I would literally, I think it was like Wednesday nights or something would come out, and I would run home from school, and once I found out that you could send her mail and she'd read off the letters, but she would usually only read something if it was really good or if she got a gift. And so I was like, nobody sent her money, I'm just gonna send her money. And I think I'm like 11 or 12 at this point. And I wrote her a letter and I was like, I have a feeling they aren't paying you enough. And so I put like $5 and some quarters in there. And she looked at the camera and she was like, you got that right, kid. And then getting to see Adam's family. I grew up in San Diego, but you know, maybe every year my parents would take me to see shows here in New York, and I got to see her in person, and she totally remembered the money in the envelope.
When I first found you on Instagram, I immediately saw theater kid energy, right? You talk about that, like you have very clear
But some people aren't used to that,
right.
And so they just assume that you're, you know, some over-the-top caricature of a cartoon. But we're around this all the time.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in San Diego, very conservative family. And luckily they did let me go to dance class because I got to see How the Grinch Stole Christmas at the Old Globe Theater.
Yeah.
Vanessa Hudgens was
Cindy
Lou Who.
Wow.
And I think
so you were one of the kids in Whoville.
Well, I was 3, and so I went to see the show the first year it opened. I auditioned every year until I was 10, and I finally got in.
But that was the show that kind of sparked it. You were like, I want to get up there.
That was what I wanted to do. So I was the only boy in dance class for years, and then finally, I think my first role ever was High School Musical. I was Ryan, and then Snoopy and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Then I did The Grinch for years at the Old Globe, and so it was such a special time in my life growing up there.
It's interesting. A lot of queer theater artists have that experience when they get to work as kids, that they kind of get to be around adults.
I kind of realized that being queer and being in the theater was going to be the safest place for me, and really where I was the happiest. So I think being here with you today and like having just come from rehearsal, like I'm back to that kid, and that this is where I'm the happiest, and I don't want to be anywhere else.
So how's it going in rehearsal?
Girl,
How are the girls?
My God, they're unreal, and I actually think what is so true about the show is it's triple threats, like true triple threats, because it is insane how, you know, in one moment you're the leading lady and you have to, you know, sell it to the audience and embody your character and sing these insane notes. And then the next moment you're like Beyonce's backup dancer. And it is so precise, and I am such a perfectionist. And I think that's really important for this show because it's not wildly fluid. It's very specific. I want to make myself proud. I want to make trans people proud. I want to make my followers proud. I want to make my mom proud. She's coming to my first night. So I think that hopefully I'll nail it.
So why is this a great first Broadway show for you?
Well, I think some people might consider me to be a slightly polarizing woman.
Sure.
And I'm playing Anne Boleyn, who famously was also quite polarizing. And I think there's something really beautiful about getting to embody this woman who was a little bit ahead of her time, and I think a lot of it misunderstood. I feel like me and Anne, in a much smaller scale for me, of being sort of blown up in the media and having people take your story and used against you and misinterpreted. And so I think the song Don't Lose Your Head is actually really on brand for me, because there's so many people in this world that I would love to just be like, I'm just trying to have fun. I'm just trying to be me. You know, please don't freak out about somebody just embodying who they truly are. And I think for Anne, I think that was a woman who was really smart. She wanted to be educated. She wanted to feel powerful. She wanted to have a voice, and that got her into some not so great situations. But I'm hoping that I can take what I've been through these past few years and bring it into the character.
You were actually in the national tour of the Book of Mormon, and then when COVID hit is when it closed, right?
Yes.
So you were one of the Ding Dong missionaries?
I was Elder White, and I did the And that was really intimidating and scary because I remember that show. It's it's a high sing, it's high energy, but it is like that muscle memory, and so I could probably still do that one right now. But I'm hoping that with Six, I also get that same muscle memory.
I saw your off-Broadway show, which was fantastic.
Thank
The
you.
Least Problematic Woman in the World.
Yes.
Great title. And now, are you kind of happy to just get to do a show now?
Oh, honey, I am so happy to play somebody else other than myself because I think as much of a gift as it is to show up every day and be vulnerable and share my story, that wasn't what I initially wanted to do. I think in a lot of ways I had to because there was nowhere else to channel that energy because I grew up playing all these really fun, exciting roles. And then when I transitioned, those roles weren't there. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna do the next best thing, which is show people who I am and write a show about me. Luckily, I now get to step back into that role of playing a different character. And actually what's really cool about the Least Problematic Woman in the World is that Lucy and Toby, who wrote Six, the music and the book, they wrote the opening number for that show for me. And so it's kind of been this little breadcrumb trail of like how I've found my way to Broadway. It's crazy when you see all of the little steps it took to get to where you were supposed to go.
Yeah.
This is the exact right time for me.
One thing I kind of noticed is when things got tough, when there were a lot of people out there sharing their opinions of you, and I was nervous about how you would, handle something like that. I noticed that's when you started coming around the Broadway community a bit more. I started seeing you at openings. You were at the Tony Award after party every year, and I felt like, oh, she's going towards where she knows the family is.
That is where I feel my safest still, and I think I just really want all trans people to feel like they have a space here, and queer people. And I think what's so crazy is the way I might have been sending fan letters to Jackie Hoffman and Kristen Chenoweth and all these people growing up. I'm now getting those messages from actually the day that this got announced that I was doing this, I got a few messages from kids around the country being like, I wasn't gonna audition for the show at my school because I'm trans, but now getting to see you do that makes me think that I can too, so I'm gonna audition. And I think that makes me so happy to know that someone can do whatever it is they want to do, and that our identities or who we truly are isn't going to stop us just because of other people's perceptions.
Do you have times where you just want to disappear for a year?
When things feel really heavy, particularly when I take too many opinions in from other people, and I think that's why social media can be really tricky, is because as many great messages as I've gotten, there's some really horrible ones. But I think that I just have to remember there are so many people, not only in the trans community, but in the theater community and at home, and the folks that I grew up with that know me for who I truly am and that want me around and that want me in these spaces. And so I can't take what the outside world that they don't actually know me as like a projection onto those who truly do. I definitely can't hide 8 shows a week. I think that will feel very public, but on that day off, girl, I'm gonna be under the covers.
Opening night at the Lena Horne Theater.
Yes.
You're in that fabulous costume. You're ready to go on. What are the emotions gonna be? How is that first night gonna feel? Your mom's in the audience.
My dad, all my best friends are flying in. I think that, it makes me want to cry thinking about it. I think it will be a testament to moving forward. I think I've always, through all of the pain, I've moved forward. And no matter, if I mess up that night or if I get a word wrong, I think the fact that I am there is the win, and I'm gonna give the best show that I can. I just want to make sure little Dylan knows how proud I am of them, and hopefully that kid is proud of me. I think it's gonna be a good night.